Hello everyone, back at it again in my little yellow kayak, and today we're going to go crappie fishing right after we get through this tunnel. So I was out the other day fishing during the eclipse. I was hoping that the bass bite would really pick up during the eclipse, and I'll just tell you it didn't. I caught a bunch of fish, but they're mostly small pickerel. But what kind of caught my attention was I also picked up some crappie. I got one crappie on a little crankbait, and I had another crappie go after a super fluke that I was fishing in some shallow weeds. So that got me thinking I should check some of my early season crappie spots, and so that's what I'm doing today. And so at least around me, this is New Hampshire, I was thinking of checking some eastern shorelines and northeastern shorelines. The first place I wanted to check, somebody was already fishing, and I decided I'd go and check another spot, and it just wasn't happening. So kind of backtracking and seeing if I can find another spot where nobody's fishing. I don't really want to crowd anyone, and I'm sure they don't want me crowding them either. So if somebody's fishing in an area that I want to fish, I just move on and go fish somewhere else. There's plenty of places to fish. And it's kind of a numbers game in the spring. They're definitely schooled up, and so you're either going to land on them and land on the school and have pretty decent fishing, or it's going to be pretty dead, and you know right away it's either going to be on or off, and it's off. If it's off, you got to just move and try another spot. So that's what I'm doing. Alright, so I mentioned in the springtime the fish tend to be on the eastern and northeastern shorelines. This is late afternoon where I'm fishing, and the sun's beating down on this eastern shoreline. There's a rock wall there that also helps to absorb some heat. And I was fishing a little bit deeper water, and I noticed that there was some fish splashing around. And I think what was happening is some pickerel were chasing schools of crappie around. And I ended up hooking one of the pickerel first. So it's just another pickerel. This one's a little bit better than my average pickerel lately, which isn't saying too much. It's more like a medium-sized pickerel. But I've got him on crappie gear, so it takes me a second to get him in the net. And the key, really, with 4-pound test line is to get him in the net as soon as possible and try to do a better job than I am right here, because eventually they will cut you off. And so I'm just trying to get him in the net before he cuts me off, and I will set him free and release him. There's a gentleman on shore asking me what I was catching, and I told him that was me yelling to him that I caught a pickerel. But I always try to be respectful to homeowners on the water. It just makes things go smoother. You just smile and be friendly and nice, and usually just I don't have any issues. Most people don't mind if you fish in front of their dock. Not that it's illegal or anything, but I just try to be nice, and seems like things go a little bit better usually. So that pickerel didn't cut me off, but I still thought I better retie. And I picked up another rod. I brought 3 rods with me in case I got cut off, or they didn't like a certain color I was fishing with. And the best lure that I found last year for crappie was a Z-Man Shad FryZ. It's a little tiny swim bait. I think it's 1 3/4 inches. It's made out of Elastec, so it's pretty durable. It's not super durable like some of their bigger minnows. Eventually they will rip that tail off, and then the bait's useless. But it comes in some nice colors. Most of last year I just fished with white, and that worked great. I think the color I'm fishing with right now is called Purple Death. To me it looks a lot like a baby bluegill. I like that color a lot. But they also have some brighter colors like Electric Chicken. Well, they got all kinds of stuff. But I just try a few colors and see what the fish seem to respond to. For panfish, sometimes they can be a little bit fussy about color, but a lot of times you just need to get the right presentation in front of them and they'll eat it. And this trip is all about location. I'm pretty sure this is the first day that they moved up. And then once you figure out, where they are, as long as you can get some reasonable presentation in front of them for a long enough time period. And I'm talking to the homeowner again. You can see him on his railing there. He's asking me what fish I'm catching. I'm telling him I'm catching black crappie now, and I was asking him if he saw any fish moving up before today, and he said no. Today was the first day I saw him splashing around. So that's really good information to know that this was probably one of the first days they moved up. So the presentation for this bait is really easy. It's just a slow, steady retrieve, and you wait for them to thump it. And as long as you don't go too fast, they'll track it and chase it down and eat it. I think a lot of people, maybe they make a mistake early in the spring of going too fast. These fish are still pretty cold, and they're not going to chase at warp speed. So you just got to go low and slow. I have to go a little bit fast here because I'm fishing shallow, and if I go really slow, I'm going to pick up weeds and stuff. But just a slow, steady retrieve, and they find it and eat it. The other little trick that I do for spring crappie is I put a little bit of scent on that Z-Man Shad FryZ. And this happens to be Smelly Jelly Bass Feast. A lot of the Smelly Jelly products, to me, they all smell a little bit like squid. So I don't know if the different varieties make too much of a difference, but some kind of scent. And I've had good luck with Procure. I've had good luck with Smelly Jelly. And so, especially in the spring, it helps seal the deal. And if I go a few casts, maybe more like a dozen casts without catching a fish or hooking up with something, I'll put that Smelly Jelly on, and a lot of times on my next cast I get bit, whereas before I wasn't getting bit. And that might be something a little bit stronger. That could be another pickerel. Yeah, I'm loosening up the drag. And I'm reaching for my net before he cuts me off. That one's another medium-sized pickerel. They put up a good fight on ultralight gear, but I've already seen plenty of pickerel this year, and it's not even May yet. But I was happy to get that one in the net because he had the lure kind of crossways in his mouth, and when I pulled the line just broke in half. So if I didn't get him in the net, he definitely would have cut me off. And I just needed my forceps to get the lure out of the pickerel's mouth. They can be a little bit of a challenge to unhook sometimes, but forceps do help, especially with smaller baits. You can get right in there, get the bend of the hook, and get that pickerel free and on his way to go eat more little panfish. So same thing as the first pickerel. I retied my jig on, and I picked up my other rod, and I'm back into the crappie. Now these crappie are a little bit big for those pickerel to be trying to eat, so I suspect there's some smaller panfish in the mix, and that's what those pickerel are trying to pick off. It's a medium-sized crappie, but they're fun. And what I like about them especially is I can come here on days when there's an east wind, when I really don't like fishing for bass, and the crappie seem less put off by an east wind, which means I can have a good time fishing for crappie and not feel like I'm spinning my wheels fishing for bass in an east wind. A few casts later and I'm on again. Crappie are pretty agreeable if you're in the right location and you got a halfway decent presentation and something that looks like a little fish for them to eat. I bet I could catch these fish on a bunch of different lures though. But I like the Z-Man Shad FryZ. It's got a little tiny kicker tail on it. The first time I threw it, I didn't really think it was doing too much in the water, but that tail really is kicking back there. But it's very, very subtle. Just a little flutter in the back. It's much more subtle than like a Kayak. I'm sure a little tiny Kayak would work too, but the crappie will tear off the tails pretty easily. You can use a lot of other baits though. I've used little crawfish baits. Berkeley makes a good one called the Power Nymph. The Z-Man larva or larvas, that's another good bait. I'm looking up at the camera to make sure I'm recording. What else? The Bobby Garland baby shads. I've used those a lot in the past. Those are great, but you need to work those baits with short jerks and pauses to give them some life. If you just cast them out and reel them in, they're not going to do very much. You're not going to catch a lot of fish. There's another crappie. So that's another reason I like the shad fries. They're really easy to fish. You just cast them out and reel them in at a steady retrieve. You don't have to work the bait. It's actually better if you don't work the bait. Alright, this next clip is a little interesting, at least to me. So I had a bite, I swung on the fish, and I didn't hook him up. And I can feel there really isn't much of a tail kick there, but I can feel that there's no tail kick at all. And yeah, some fish has ripped the tail off of the Z-Man Shad FryZ. And there are pretty durable baits, but if you catch enough crappie or pickerel grabs the tail, that's it for the bait. So compared with something like a diesel minnow or a 3-inch minnows or a jerk shads, something like that, they're not as durable as that. They're still pretty durable, better than most crappie plastics or tubes or plastisol baits of any kind, but eventually they will go through them. So it's good to have a couple colors and maybe an extra pack or two of your favorite colors, because you will go through them. Alright, I had a great afternoon fishing for some spring crappie. Sun's getting a little lower, and I'm thinking about heading back home for dinner. Maybe just a few more casts, and then I'll head in. So thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. I'll list all the gear in the video description, just like every other video. And I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!